Hey, this is Hayden Gillum. Thanks for watching MotoAmerica on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe.
You're locked into the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. Our round is Superbikes at Alabama, our final of 2022, coming at you from Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama. And it's a little cloudy. There's been some rain that has fallen recently, but we're setting the stage here for Supersport race number 2, our final Supersport race of the season. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to MotoAmerica Supersport here at Barber Motorsports Park. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, this season has been Josh Herrin. He even wrapped the championship up early, but Josh had spent some time in Supersport at the beginning of his career. Then he wins Superbike championship. Then he goes and wins Stock 1000 championship, and now Supersport. Kind of an unusual trajectory in his career.
Yeah, no doubt. He's been bouncing around a little bit, Greg, but he's won at all levels. You got to give it that much because he's won at the Superbike level. He's won a lot of races at the Superbike level as well as championships, like you said. So he came here yesterday, wanted to win again. It was a little bit different. Rocco Landers rode a spectacular race yesterday with a good tire choice. Today's going to be a little different.
Let's take a look at Josh Herrin's numbers on the season, because what a season he's had, Jason. 362 points right now. He's got that big margin, but it's that 8 wins and 15 podiums on a motorcycle that was brand new in Supersport this year.
Yeah, amazing. And that whole team has done a really nice job, Greg, of getting that bike up to speed. They didn't suffer really any mechanicals at all this season. And when he was still ripping around, he was winning a lot of the races. There have been a couple guys that have surprised him, like we said with Rocco Landers, Josh Hayes, and a couple others. But he has definitely put himself always in that top 5. A lot of podiums. That's what wins you championships.
All right, let's take a look at race 1 highlights from yesterday and see how the race unfolded. Jay, take us through it.
Yeah, when we look at the start here, Ty Scott got a great start, but Herrin right off the bat rolls around the outside, gets up the inside as they go into turn 2, and it looked to me like Herrin was ready to set sail. Ty Scott would run him back down, but then slowly but surely you start to fall back into the grasp of this guy going forward, Rocco Landers. And you can see here, Stefano Mesa ran a tremendous race yesterday. Rocco Landers started with a hard tire yesterday, was a little bit slow to get started, fell back as far as like 2.5 seconds, Greg, but he started coming good about midway through that race. He even said, once I saw they weren't getting away from me, I started to get a little bit confidence, and he did. Herrin fired back as they went into turn 8, and it was only to be Rocco Landers going back up through the turn 14, 15, 16. Look how close Mesa was. But Rocco Landers rode tremendous yesterday. You can see how close that race was at the end there for Rocco to win, Herrin second, and Mesa a really great third.
So let's look at Rocco Landers. You can see the first 8 races, he only scores 106 points with no wins, and then all of a sudden, it's the emergence. The last 9 races have been stellar for Rocco.
And we've seen what happens when he goes on win streaks, haven't we, in other classes? And I think that this year, getting used to 600 R6 that he's riding the last couple of years, there's a major dry spell for him. And with coaching of Josh Hayes and getting some different setup notes and things, you've really seen what he's been able to do since he's getting some confidence in that bike.
And in the Supersport category, there are plenty of young guns. And now we have Jamie Howe, who's hanging out with Ty Scott, who's already won a race in his very first season. Jamie?
Greg, Tyler Scott came into this Supersport season as the reigning Junior Cup champion, hoping to make a name for himself up on the bigger bike. You've done that. You've got 1 win this season, 8 podiums so far. When you look back on everything that you've been able to learn and accomplish, what stands out to you?
Yeah, definitely. The goal of the season was to be consistently up front, and we had a few unfortunate DNFs throughout the season, but we're here at the last round in Barber, and I was really excited coming into the weekend. Yesterday we had a dry race. We made a poor tire choice, which landed us in 5th for yesterday. But moving on, today we had a different plan, but this guy had a different plan than us. So it looks like it's going to be a mostly wet race. It could dry out at the end, but I think we get a 7-minute practice session to feel it out, and then it's race time.
And Tyler Scott Hanna is not the only rider looking to make further steps up.
The last 3 races for Jarrett Nassani have been some of his best performances that we've seen all season. Jarrett, how has your team given you all of the tools necessary for you to grow from a technical standpoint and as a rider to this progression you've made?
Yeah, so my team, I have a really solid team behind me with my mechanics and my crew chief, and then this year we really invested in a rider coach, and Corey West came on, and he's been helping me out a ton. And then obviously we switched over to 750, and it's been suiting me really well. At the beginning of the year, there are obviously some growing pains. So we've gotten kind of everything figured out, and we've been rolling really well.
Best of luck out there. Thanks, Jarrett.
Yeah, we can't wait to see how bright the future is for Jared Nassini. Jay, let's take a look at Barber Motorsports Park. It is a fun one.
It is, and it's a little bit wet right now, so it's going to be an interesting race, especially down into turn 1. Then we're going to go up over through that turn 2, 3, 4 area, Greg, very fast up over turn 4, blind and wide open as they get down into the famous Charlotte's Web. From there, they're going to wind their way over towards the museum in turn 9 through a fast little kink, and then down to turn 12, another tricky corner, Greg, that usually you tip in. You cannot see the apex of that corner, so it's blind as well. Up over through 14, 15, 16, where I felt that was where Rocco Landers had his big advantage yesterday. Herron even said he needed to work on that spot, and then through turn 17 on that run to the checkered flag.
All right, so Barber Motorsports Park is what these riders have to negotiate first before they get racing their own teammates. We're going to step away. We're just over 4 minutes from a race start. You don't want to go anywhere. Supersport, final race of 2022 coming up.
Well, as the field is starting to make their way down to pit out and get on track for this quick start, one of the interesting developments here that we're seeing is a number of riders. I'm standing right in pit lane. As they're coming by, folks, a number of the riders are on slicks. The rain has stopped. The skies are brighter. There still are some dark clouds around, but there's no rain right now. And a few of these riders are thinking this thing might just stay dry and dry up a little bit, and they're rolling the dice on slicks. One of the guys we heard that might be doing that, yesterday's winner, Rocco Landers, he has not come by yet. I'm going to be watching that. They are really eyeballing that bike, trying to figure out what the plan is here. And the interesting thing is, when you look at the current point scenario, obviously Herron, clinched the championship at New Jersey, but all the way back into the 5th spot, there's nobody that can move up a spot because the point margins are just too big. So for Rocco Landers, Tyler Scott, Benjamin Smith, and of course Josh Herron, it is all about just going for the win. That's what this is going to be all about, and it's going to be fascinating to see who plays as well. And if, say, a Rocco Landers rolls the dice, guys, comes out on slicks, and that pays off. He took a risk with tires yesterday, and it paid off. He might be up for trying it again.
He is taking a big chance right now, and Roger, I think this is taking a little bit longer than they expected. He's got to make that start.
Yep. He's going to be starting in pit lane, so that's going to, he's going to start pretty far in the back.
Big chance, a guy that I don't know that's necessarily always comfortable in the rain as some others are. What's even more uncomfortable than being on a wet track with a slick tire?
But this track, there will be a dry line pretty fast. If the sun comes out, which it looks like it's going to, this is one of those places that's going to dry up real slick. It's just those first couple laps, he just has to be careful, but also he can't give up too much.
I saw Hayden Schultz, part of that Yamaha linebacker squad in the background there over to the right, watching things. He might have to tiptoe a bit with these slicks. What can you do physically as a rider? How do you adjust the weight, the body position?
Mesa just came in the pits. He's on slicks, so maybe he thought it was too wet. Now, you know what I mean? Maybe he went out on slicks and was like, oh, it's too wet.
We see
now
here.
He went back out.
Well, probably because he doesn't think he can do it enough time, right? You better have a pit crew in there that can make that change. I don't know Mesa can make that change that fast.
No.
That's what I'm saying. He didn't have that option. He might say, guys, we messed up, but I'm just letting you know we messed up.
Maybe it's something else.
Maybe. So this is different. Their guys are going to be starting from pit lane and guys starting out on the track. Either way, Greg and Jason will tell that story. Who's going to win this race? This is getting really interesting here at Barber.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is sponsored by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series, and by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car or motorcycle insurance.
Back to Barber Motorsports Park, where motorcycles are out on their warm-up laps. Some riders didn't get out because tire choice is very interesting, Jason. The track is wet. It's declared a wet race, which means that if the skies opened up again and it started raining, then they wouldn't stop the race. It's a wet race. But Jason, we have seen with our own eyes, some riders go full wets, other riders, including Rocco Landers, on full slicks. What do you think?
Mesa's on slicks, I think, as well. So, Greg, here's the problem. We've got a little bit of a shortened race to 15 laps. And it's just going to be a matter of how quick the dry line starts to appear. That's the problem. I think that there's still going to be a little bit too much of an advantage to a guy like Josh Herrin, who's going to be on full wets at the beginning of this race. He's going to take off and probably be gone very, very early. So we'll see.
All right, let's take a look at the starting grid. As Jason mentioned, it's 15 laps in this race. So Josh Herrin's on pole in the dry with Ty Scott and Rocco Landers on row number 1.
A little bit further back, there we go. We got Mesa, third place yesterday with Benjamin Smith right alongside of him and Lockoff. Then we're going to have Dom Doyle, Jarrett Nassani, Soltis, Liam Grant, Luke Power, CJ LaRoche. Luke Power we've seen go real well in the rain this year earlier. Maya, Holt, Miranda, Jacobson, Hopkins, and Zaragoza. Back to row 7, Chris Sabara, Staris, Frey, and Neto going to round out the grid. So, you know, you're going to probably see some openings on the grid, some holes in the grid, if you will, because the riders that came from pit lane, I think, go to the back of the grid because they didn't come back around for their sighting or for their quick grid procedure. So we'll see if I got that one right. But
this is going to be, I think, one of the most interesting starts of the season. The only good news is there's not a national championship on the line because Herrin wrapped that one up. Had this been like some of our other classes that's coming down to the last race of the year, it would be high tension.
Yeah, and he's really good in these conditions. Like the rain doesn't.
Josh Herrin, you mean?
Yeah, Josh Herrin. The rain doesn't bother Josh Herrin at all, and we've seen him do some pretty good things on superbikes as well as Supersport machines. So, you know, he's going to have a lot of experience. This is where experience is really going to pay off in that regard. But you can see nobody lining up on the front row there. That would be Rocco's spot. So we'll see if these holes in the grid start to fill up a little bit.
And Josh Herrin, obviously, on those rain tires, you could see the deep grooves. Some riders still trying to make their way back to the grid. Rocco being one of them, as he's tiptoeing through the tulips here because he's on slick tires.
Yep. And that, you know, the thing is when you're going, you know, that's how he's probably going to end up riding the first couple laps. You're just going to be giving up way too much to the guys at the front. And you can see Mesa's getting up to his grid spot.
Josh Herrin having a laugh with Stefano Mesa before this race as Mesa out on the full slicks, hoping that there's going to be enough time left in the race, as is Rocco Landers, if a dry line forms, to reel in the front. Jason, this is reminiscent of 2003, the first time we came here to Barber Motorsports Park and Supersport. Very similar conditions, only no slicks back then, DOT tires, and the front group started on DOTs, then the line dried, and they started to absolutely shred the rest of the field.
Well, it would be okay if you had a little bit of wind because you can see the sun trying to come through, but I just don't know if in 15 laps it's going to be dry enough. So we'll see.
We're away racing. Supersport race number 2. 15 laps scheduled. And looking up the inside, is that Luke Power on the 68? Josh Herrin out front. Now Josh has got to think about it. He's going to be keeping an eye on how quickly this dry line forms. Because looking overhead, Jay, I just don't see another cloud in the sky.
But Josh is going to be solid. He's going to, you know, he's going to get out front early like he's doing now. Look at the gap he's already got. And that's experience. That's the experience that this guy has over a lot of the younger riders in the field. And they're going to learn from this. As you say, Jarrett Nassani trying to get his way into third, and he's going to do that. He's up behind the R6 there, Benjamin Smith. So Ben Smith gets a good start as well. You can see Ty Scott there with Luke Power, as you said, but this is the places where Herrin's good. He gets good starts. He's good in the dries. You can see Nassani has made the pass on Ben Smith. So Jarrett Nassani up into second place. Could this be the day, Greg, that we get to see Jarrett maybe get himself up on the podium? He's been in the series for quite a long time. In the 59 right now, as you heard pre-race on that GSXR 750. Gets a little sideways. It's all right. Got it under control.
The Altus Motorsports rider on that GSXR 750 from Altus, Oklahoma.
Yeah,
great job. Benjamin Smith starting to fade just a bit. Jay, this is one of those races where it's like,
here comes Luke.
So Luke Power into third place. We've seen Power already with a podium earlier on this season in wet conditions and riders down.
Yep.
The first.
We got this here.
And actually, full reins on that rider. Aaron has to look over his shoulder.
And he's probably literally, he went out. He was one of the first guys out for that little short practice session we got before this. We have another rider down, Greg. I'm trying to figure out where this is.
That's Emerson Amaya out of West Virginia, N2 Racing, bobblehead moto.
Yeah, he must have got flicked off in the right hand, and you can see the bike. But see all the riders now that are coming around on slicks. This bike's laying right in the middle of the racetrack. But all the riders that you see going through there, they're all on slicks. And Herrin is already down into Charlotte's Web. And there's Rocco Landers. He's just coming through the last corner now. So he's going to be, boy, a long, long, long way back.
Great job by our corner worker
Really
volunteers to get that motorcycle off the racing line. As Herrin goes 143.7. Emerson going to remount.
See if we see. This is up over the top of the hill. This is probably going to be our first incident. Yep, down through turn 13. Probably lost the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're going to see Emerson's going to lose it out of the right-handers where he's going to lose it. And the bike's going to come all the way down the track there. And two bikes sliding along. All the riders able to miss it. But we have two very, very distinct groups out there right now, Greg, because the first 10 guys came across, and then some 17 seconds later, the guys on slicks came across. Liam Grant, Mesa, Neto, they're all riding around together. But when you look at it, literally Herrin's probably going to be starting to lap people on the second or third lap.
You think it's important for Herrin to go as quick as he can, because as it dries out, we know that he's going to punish that rear tire.
He's going to be smart. Watch, he'll have a look over his shoulder probably coming out of here again, and there's just going to be nobody around because he's going to recognize here. You can see, actually, like Jarrett Nassani's still doing a really nice job there in second place. Luke Power third. Actually, Luke Power's gone through now on Jarrett Nassani.
Well, the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York rider Josh Herrin out front, controlling the pace, Hannah.
He is, Greg, and I spoke with him just after that warm-up session that they were allowed before this race. He said it was a little slippery, and he had a couple of moments just in one flying lap that he got, which is why he chose to go with these rain tires. He said they're going to run a little less rear tire pressure to make the grip more predictable, and a little different setup in the practice than that he's actually running in the race. They're referring to an earlier rain setup that he did well on this year. So definitely trying to make the most of this lead. It is a little breezy out here, and the sun's trying to come out, so we'll see how this track dries as it continues.
That first rain's always the worst, though, isn't it, Greg? So when they went out, we had a small cell come over the top of us, dump on the track pretty good. These guys went right out, and Herrin got an out lap, and he did one flying lap and an in lap, so he got at least a chance to look at it, because I watched him going around, and that's what you have to do when you're an experienced guy. We saw Josh Hayes do the same thing at Jersey. He went out in that practice session in that morning to see what the conditions were like, and you can see the lead he's got. You can see it, Greg. It is actually starting to look like it wants to dry a little bit. I can look out on the front straightaway right now and see some dry patches as well.
Jamie, what do you know about track conditions? What are you seeing down there?
Well, just walking up and down pit lane, there are some dry spots that are forming on the concrete that's down here. It's a different surface than what's out on the racetrack, but the point being that it is starting to dry out. So some of the riders that are out there on the full dry setup will certainly be getting into a place where they're going to have an advantage. One of those being Stefano Mesa. I just talked to his dad, and he said he never even put a wet setup on that motorcycle. He stayed full dry the whole time. He had a conversation with both his mom and his dad before he went out, and they said, as long as you feel safe out there, just stay out there and race. Don't come back in here. We don't want to see you until after the checkered flag. So he's doing what he can with what he has right now, but I think it's going to become an advantage later on.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can see the stickers are still on the front tire of that Kawasaki of his, and you can see Dom Doyle just behind him as well. So both of them are skating around. And just to give you an idea, 43.6 for the leader that time through. This group are doing 2:13s. So, and Herrin's only getting quicker right now. But you literally have 10 riders, Greg, out on reins, and then the rest are all on slicks.
You can already starting to see some dry patches in the middle of the racetrack.
Herrin's going to lap him, though. Like, he's probably going to lap him in the next lap and a half. He's going to be going past a big group of 10 riders, and he's probably going to be giggling under his helmet when he does it, because the dry setup or the slick tires were just not the way to go here.
It's not, but yeah, obviously the laps are slow to tick by for these riders.
Oh, it's the worst when you're out there right now, too. And you know that everybody around you are all doing the same thing. Dom Doyle is literally probably just following Stefano right now and just thinking, all right, there's no reason for me to really worry about trying to go past him at this moment, because we're just all kind of cruising around so slow together.
Well, that's really it. Who's the leader on slicks? So two groups of riders we talked about. So if you're just joining us, we are 11.5 laps to go in Supersport race number 2. It's declared a wet race. The track is wet, but rain hasn't fallen in quite some time. Some riders like this guy right here who's done a 1:43.676 has chosen to go on full rain tires, which of course could come in jeopardy later on, and some riders have gone full slick, so they're poking around the racetrack.
He's going to lap them all this lap. So we're how many laps in? 4 laps. Herron's going to come onto this group on this lap, and he's going to pass probably about 8 or 9 people. Rocco's going to be the first one he's going to see here because he's just coming up out of turn 4. Rocco is actually on that straightaway just up the road. So Herron's going to
dry line.
Be looking and thinking to himself, and you can see the dry line, but it's just not going to matter at this stage.
No, it's definitely not. To unlap yourself with Herron drying out too, that it's just a question of how good the grip is going to be for Herron. The other thing too to think about is it's not just a dry line, but if the sun makes its way through these clouds, which as we're told it's trying, it's going to put some heat in that track as well, and we're going to start seeing that Ducati move around. No traction control on that bike either for the Ducati.
The thing is it's going to be the same for all the guys on rains. All the tires are going to start moving around. Everybody's going to start to have issues. So, but for Herron right now, he's just going to start to see all these guys in front of him. Yep. Liam Grant's the next one, it looks like.
Little wave by Rocco Landers as Josh had a look back saying, what's up, man? So, of course, Rocco started on the back of the grid, right? So yeah. Josh didn't have a good look initially that Rocco would have been on slicks, but he can clearly see it when you're on the motorcycle.
Yeah.
When you pull up, there's definitely a distinction in the way those tires look when you're riding around him.
He's got 4.3 seconds right now over very impressive Luke Power running in second place. And then you have Nassani and Ben Smith. Ty Scott, Lockoff, they're all top 6. Soltis is in there as well. I saw him he's right behind Scott and Lockoff, I thought, last time through. So we'll keep an eye on that. But 1:45.4 that time for Herron. That's actually going past a couple people as well. So 3.2 seconds that time, though. Luke Powers was almost a second quicker. So he gained a second on Herron, and look at this group of people that he's coming up to now, Greg. He's going to have to find his way through, and you can see that dry line is definitely starting to come out, but you're going to see it more in the elevation than you are on some of the flats. So they're going to come out of here, they're going to go up a little hill, then it kind of flattens out, and the whole next section will be a little flatter. So the drainage here at Barber's actually really good, and we know this place is good in the rain.
Yeah, really good. When they repaved this in 2019, it wasn't just a repave. They dug down deep. They focused on drainage as well. And the folks here at Barber Motorsports Park did an amazing job of making sure that this racetrack, and its really second big pavement iteration, was able to be great in the rain. So Josh, Aaron going through traffic. Looks like they're lapping Jason. Yeah, they're up to what, 15th place?
Yeah, Mesa's going to be in this group, and there's Stefano. Stefano's probably laughing right now. He's thinking, okay, yeah, we definitely didn't do right here. But you don't want to come in the pits because mom and dad might, Yeah,
they said stay out there.
Stay out there.
Stay out there.
So,
put some laps in when we do. The problem is with that inconsistent dry line. It's not like, Jay, you've been through this before in World Endurance since you're a World Endurance champion, and when you have a dry line, even if it's not completely dry, but it is a window, you can kind of pick up your pace for 5 corners and then kind of roll out of it. But this looks different because it's more patchy.
It would have been one thing if they were on slicks and they could have got their tires up to temperature. A lot of the situations I was put under would be I'd be out there riding around on slick tires, and then it would like sprinkle or rain. So you knew you still had heat in your tires. The slicks here never have really got to get the full heat into their tires the way it should. So right now, like Luke Power and some of the guys on rains, as this race continues, the dry line obviously is going to hurt them, but they're so far out in front of anybody with slicks that it's not really going to matter. That gap stayed at 3.3 seconds that last time passed. So Luke can still see Herron up the road, and you can see he's pulled out a huge gap now over. There's actually a pretty good fight for third with Nassani, Smith, Lockoff, and Scott. They are all tied together.
Little Ben Smith action. One of the things we love when motorcycle road racing is in the rain. Clear visors go on those helmets, and watching the eyes of the riders is awesome.
Yeah, you can see the focus of what's happening here. So, I mean, there are some fun things to look at here. Mesa just gets passed by Luke Power.
Yeah, but Mesa's really picked up the pace, Jay. That's the one thing. So Mesa looks like he's kind of broken free of that group he was with, starting to get some confidence in the slicks. he was with that group of riders behind him. So Mesa's starting to pick up the pace and get some confidence on those slick tires.
You can definitely tell, can't you?
Yeah, but the task of chasing down Josh Herrin. So Luke Power is in second spot right ahead. There goes Mesa. Oh, yeah.
That's the hard part. You got to kind of, in another lap or so, it's going to be okay. And then Mesa will probably go back past Luke Power. It will be funny to see if Mesa catches back up to Herrin and passes him as well. Herrin's coming onto the front straightaway right now. Look over his shoulder, nobody there. But now Mesa, if there starts to become a real dry line, he'll be able to go by, which he does. He goes past Luke Power.
All right, so Stefano Mesa on the Mesa Racing 37 entry. And then you have Luke Power on that 3D Motorsports GSXR 750. So it looks like Luke Power has found the limit of traction. Mesa trying to unlap himself is the 37. Last time by the stripe, Jamie, Mesa in 11th place.
And one of the things that he talked about earlier was he doesn't really need the bike to be perfect. So riding out on the slick tires when the track wasn't exactly ready for it, it's not a big concern for him. He said, I'm a club racer. I'm out here racing with all of the people, all the spectators that are here watching. He's on track with those guys every weekend. So he said, that's just what I do. I come out and I ride the bike that I have to ride, and I make the most of it. So he's making it work right now, but he's just such a cool guy. That's just his attitude all the way around. He said, I'm out here riding motorcycles. This is supposed to be fun. I'm not going to let myself get overly stressed out about it.
No, and he won't, and that's exactly right, because he does a lot of that. And you can see Herrin went quickest lap last lap, but Mesa's going to break that this lap. Mesa's going to go quickest lap of the race probably on this lap. It's definitely getting dry. It's getting, definitely see the sun is out, and the front straightaway now is almost completely dry. So, yeah, interesting dynamic here with Herrin just doing what he needed to do, getting out to that big lead, lapping all these guys, and now he's going to have maybe have Mesa catch him for sure.
So what we're looking at, Jason, is 143-ish. We'll see what Mesa does in the dry as he picks up the pace. I mean, when the track is completely dry, they do 126s, right?
Yeah.
So when you're in the 140s, so Mesa goes by 139.7. Or we have 7 laps to go, Jason. Put your math hat on. How many seconds a lap is Mesa going to have to be quicker than Josh Herrin to unlap himself, which is up the road a piece?
It ain't going to be enough.
No, it's not going to be enough.
My math ain't that good, but I can tell you it's not going to be enough, Greg. Yes.
Yeah, so Mesa trying to get himself unlapped, and he's in 11th place, but he's got a long way to go to catch 10th. I think Edgar Zaragoza's up the road about 29 seconds. Very interesting race to call on this one, Jay.
And you can see, again, experience here, okay? So Herrin's still doing 42.7, and now Luke has probably had a major drop-off on his tires. He goes 46.2. The battle for third right now between Scott, Smith, Nassani, and Lockoff, they're only about, I'm just trying to have a look, they're about five seconds behind. As you can see, Mesa here now wants to unlap himself. Herrin will probably look back and wave him through, or he'll hear a bike. There you go.
Yeah,
wave him through. He knows. Mason gives him the thumbs up. Thank you so much. So Herrin knows.
Yeah, Josh isn't foolish. He's not going to try to challenge somebody on a full wet. It could be setup and tires versus slicks.
Herrin might be doing some math right now, though. He might be thinking, wait a minute. He looks like he's flying, and he's going to come by with about 6 to go as Herrin. And we'll start to see how big the difference is, how big the drop-off is. It's going to be fun to watch Mesa, see how far back up the field he can get. I'll be able to tell you here in a couple seconds how far behind Edgar Zaragoza he is, because Zaragoza is another rider on reins. He's 33 seconds behind him.
All right, but the difference, Mesa goes 135.9 last time by. So we get
41.2 for Herrin.
41.2 for Herrin. By the way, Rocco Landers in 17th place. He's doing 43.4, so he hasn't quite found it yet. Here's the payback in sportsmanship by Mesa.
Yeah, well, you can see Herrin kind of figured he would do that. Mesa says thank you. Off he goes. And Herrin can just kind of continue to do his own thing now. He's not going to really have to deal with anybody or any traffic or anything like that. So
what a race. What a funny race.
Like two weird days of racing, you know. Like yesterday there was definitely a tire choice that played in the outcome with Rocco Landers in the dry going with that harder tire than everybody else, and it paid off for him at the end. Today Herrin made the right choice, I felt, by going out on reins early. You know, there are some guys out there, Greg, that do some incredible things on slick tires in the rain. I've seen some people do some things, and I think, wow, that's incredible amount of bike control. But with such a young field that we have, there's not a lot of them have had that experience of being out on slicks on sort of a wet track or anything like that before. So we're waiting for Luke Power to come through now. There you see he's in second, but looking back, it looked like these guys are starting to close in on Luke ever so slightly. He went 44.7 last time. The guys behind him are all doing 42s. So they can still maybe run him down because they are about 3.1 seconds behind him. So Luke's got to keep his head down for the last 5 laps of this race, no doubt.
Be great to see Power back on the podium in his rookie Supersport season. Mesa goes 1:33.334, Jason, the fastest rider on track. The difference is what to Josh Herrin?
That's about 7 seconds that lap in time difference, but there's second right there. And then you can see Ty Scott now is trying to get himself in alignment. There's Rocco. He's moving forward now. Rocco Landers has got back by all the guys on reins that had gone by him earlier.
And Jason, if these guys can't catch up to Luke Power and he can hold them off, he'll match his best finish of the season. Greg, as you mentioned, he did get on the podium in wet conditions at MotoAmerica. And when I interviewed him about it, we laughed because I said, when I met you, you didn't tell me you were a rain racer. And he said, I didn't know I was. He did get a pair of 8th place finishes last round in New Jersey, and one of those was in the rain. But overall, really good season for Luke Power. He's a rookie in the class. He's also a rookie in MotoAmerica. This is his first time seeing so many of these tracks, and a really strong performance and a great way to end the season would be if he could get this 2nd place clinched.
And Jason, amazing, another really nice Australian.
What a welcome addition to our paddock Luke Power has been. And you know, the fact that he did get that podium earlier in the year, I think was really good. He's come to all these tracks. I remember him having a pretty strong Daytona 200 as well, and it's been really neat seeing him adapt himself to all these new tracks. And hopefully we get him back here again next year to where when he goes to all these tracks, he knows them all already, and he'll be able to really put his best foot forward. Another year under his belt, a good season of off-season training rather. As you can see, Rocco Landers goes past Luke Power.
Yeah, so 31.8 for Mesa with, well, we're 4 laps to go. So
10-second difference between him and Herrin that time. So how far back is he, Greg? He's
36?
Yeah, it says he's, well, it's because
he hasn't come across the line yet.
Yeah, we got to wait for him, but he's, we'll see what happens here.
All right, so Herrin.
Look at Josh getting passed by all these guys now on slicks, as you're going to see here. You got Dominic Doyle going through. Christian Miranda also now is going to have a look and probably go by Herrin down this next straightaway. What a strange race for Josh Herrin to have to run, passing all these guys early and then seeing them all go back past him.
And the thing is, he's not going to be confused about it, because every time a rider goes by Herrin, he's going to look down, he's going to see they're on slick tires, so he knows the situation. Plus, if you're new to motorcycle road racing, there is a pit board right by start-finish line that Josh Herrin's team will stick out and let him know that he's still in P1. So really what we're looking at, even though these riders are unlapping themselves, is that Josh Herrin has a 12.8 second lead over Luke Power, who's got a 5.5 second lead over Ty Scott. But Sam Lockoff, Tyler Scott's teammate, is only a second behind him. So Sam Lockoff trying to get on the podium. Jared Nassani in 5th.
I'm seeing more red up on our screen. That's Rocco Landers now. He's gotten 33 flat that last time by for Rocco. So he's doing a bit of the same thing that Mesa is. Mesa's up the road quite a ways from Rocco at this point, though. As you get a look at Ty Scott, there's Jarrett Nassani. That's for that final. Lockoff's in there too. Yeah, sorry. So I'm looking. You're doing the same thing I am. I'm seeing Ty Scott and I see Jarrett Nassani right behind him, and I'm not seeing Lockoff in between them, even though that's what the screen is telling me.
Yeah, because right now what we're looking at is Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki's Ty Scott. And then on our timing screens, we have Sam Lockoff in 4th place, Jared Nassani in 5th. I'm looking for Sam. Oh, there's Sam behind.
Sam's back there, isn't he? And you can look at how much his bike is wobbling around as Ben Smith has gone past. Oh, has he got a problem? See the bike. The bike was wobbling everywhere. It almost.
Yeah, last time by. So Sam Lockoff worked his way up there, but now he's slid back down to 6th place.
Yeah, he went 44 that last time by 44.8.
Jamie?
I had a conversation with Sam Lockoff just before he went out for that the rain practice session before this race, and he was kind of discouraged by the fact that the rain was there. He had a really good feeling about the bike when it was dry in the race yesterday before he was taken out, but then also in the morning warm-up. So he was looking forward to seeing what was actually in it. He said it felt pretty good. But the rain, it was an equalizer, and now it's just mixed everything all up for all of us. So he had good high hopes. The teams worked really well together this weekend to get this bike improved over the course of all the practice and qualifying sessions, and he's just looking forward to making something of it.
Yeah, and it's a horrible way to end the season. When you're Sam Lockoff, you come back from injury, and you've had a motorcycle that feels pretty good. To come up with these conditions, Jay, it's pretty rough, because what's going to happen with Sam Lockoff and a lot of these Supersport riders moving forward for next season? Are they staying in the class? Are they moving up? What's the deal? So Sam Lockoff was looking for a great result. But Tyler Scott trying to put it on the podium one more time. Now, Jay, there's about what? We're getting close to 1 lap to go.
Yeah, but he's
or
already
2 laps to go. He's gone through.
Yep, Herron's gone through already. Ty Scott, and you see Luke Power is going to come through next. Just look at the difference in lap times between second and third right now. 43.0 for Luke Power, 40 flat, 40.3. So right now, Scott's going about 3 seconds a lap quicker than Luke Power. I'm watching Mesa right now. He's got himself up into the top 10 now at a minute 30.7. He's going 10 seconds quicker than the fastest on the wets. So he's probably going to get himself up, Greg, into the top 6 or 7, top 7 possibly. We'll see. But as you get a good look here, Ty Scott is zeroing in up in front of him there at Luke Power. Here's Herron right now back at it. He's still going minute 40.3, so he's got a 17.5 second lead, Greg. He's obviously playing it really smart.
So the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York rider on the Panigale V2, who's had 8 wins on the season, captured the #1 plate a race ago. Josh Herron on his way to race win number 9, but on full rain tires that I'm sure are worked at this point, Jason, without question.
Yeah. Mace's up to 8th.
Mace's up to 8th, going 130.4. Rocco Landers check. He just goes 128.7, so Landers goes fastest lap of the race, 28th, and in 12th place. Could be a little bit too late for Rocco.
What was our original scheduled laps? Do you remember, Greg?
15.
Sorry,
19. 19
so
original.
Those extra 4 laps, they definitely could have put into play. As you see, white flag is out for Herron, minute 40.6. Still, that for Josh, that's going to be easy lap times for him. He's not pushing as hard as he can. He's just rolling around. And yeah, here comes Luke Power right now, coming out of that last corner. He's doing everything he can to just hold Ty Scott off. He's doing a minute. That was Luke's fastest lap of the race for him. That time by, Luke Power went 40.5 to Ty Scott's 40.1. So the lap prior, Ty Scott gained 3 seconds on him. That time he only gained 4/10. So Luke doing what he needs to do.
This has got to be a long lap for Josh Herron, knowing it's the final lap. He's put in a great performance. Jay, I would say that the majority of this race win is all thanks to his pace at the beginning.
No question. Yep.
Such great feel. And again, the Ducati Panigale V2, not with the aid of such things like traction control. So all this is talent, is experience and talent.
Experience. I mean, that's what he's got a lot of, and he's put that to play today. And good way for him to finish his season, isn't it? Come in here, wins the championship a couple weeks ago, gets second yesterday, wins this one by a mile. And he did this off of experience and the right tire choice.
Yeah, and on the racetrack, he's setting the example for the younger riders as to how do you approach days like this. For a lot of these young Supersport riders, dealing with these conditions at a racetrack like Barber Motorsports Park with such great traction, it's a learning experience. Well, Herron's team out there he's going to head onto the straightaway and bring it home.
Stand-up wheelie time, you think?
You think so?
Wet tire, maybe?
Here comes Josh Herron.
Want to do it.
To the checkered flag, Herron wins the final race of the 2020 season in Supersport. The #1 plate wraps his 9th career victory of the season. And Luke Power, the Australian, coming onto the front straightaway. And what a great second place finish as he celebrates. And coming to the line, Ty Scott.
Jarrett Nassani ends up 4th, waiting for Benjamin Smith to come around out the top 5. But I think, let's see, Lockoff
got back by him. There's the stand-up wheelie.
Yep. Probably, on rains, it's a little different to do stand-up wheelies and things on that soft a tire, especially when it's probably worn. Here's Rocco Landers. Mesa, by the way, ended up 7th, Greg. And here's Rocco now, probably wishing we had those extra 4 laps.
No question. Last corner of the season in Supersport for Rocco Landers. He gambled on those slick tires, and he's pretty happy with that performance.
Yeah, you know, that's experience for him. You got to remember, Rocco's young still. So now he's going to be able to put that experience, you know, in his memory, probably just dissect it, get with Dad and the team he's with. As you can see, Herron's race pace here. And he was going quicker towards the end than he was at the beginning even. And even with those tires probably getting chewed up pretty well. But those Dunlop reins held up good. Lap 12 was his quickest. He went 40.1, Greg. And on his last lap, he went 40.2.
Fastest lap of the race, though. So Jason just said it. Herron goes 40.1 on rain tires. Rocco Landers a 28.7. It's not every day you see about 12.5 seconds difference in lap times from the winner to 9th place. Josh Herron's going to celebrate. When we come back, we'll catch up with him in Victory Circle and find out how that race went.
Oh, Josh. Oh, he lost one. Oh, he lost one. He thought he was going to drop down. He was a little bit too high up there. Robbie Floyd and Roger Hayden here with you. That's tough with the fingers, too.
Very tough.
Lost his glove. Trying to do a Elio Castroneves and a couple of lucky fans. Oh, rider down.
Couple of them.
Couple of lucky
Yellow
fans
flag
out there. Oh, man, that's funny. Hey, good job by him. And we got to see that stand-up wheelie out of him. One of the funniest moments, there were a couple out there, but one of the funniest moments was when Josh knew how wet it was on the track after he went around on his sight lap with those rain tires, and he saw Stefano Mesa pull up next to him on slicks, and Mesa's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way.
He just looked over and let him come on by and didn't get caught up in the race.
Yeah, that was during the race, but when they lined up on that starting line initially, Josh knew that, I mean, it took a long time for that track to dry up enough that they could actually push. And Rocco Landers, you saw him, you know, throwing a 128 in there as well, but it just took too long. And you know what? They had to cut the lap short because you knew it'd be a slower race, but if they would have done extended, you know, the full amount, we might have a different winner.
Yeah, could possibly, but, you know, it played out the way, you know, the way it did. The laps were 15, and you have to look at that when you go into your strategy, your tire strategy. How many laps is the race? Since they're going to be shorter, the rain tires could even be more of an option because you don't have to worry about those 4 extra laps.
I know we will see the podium of Herron, Power, and Scott, but on the tally board, it doesn't show you how far back the guy, the first top runner with slicks on was. 33 seconds, only 33 seconds. He actually got lapped at one point, but only 33 seconds behind with Stefano Mesa. He got CJ LaRoche at the end. He was with another probably quarter lap of getting Ben Smith.
And Rocco or Mesa was about 10 seconds a lap quicker.
Yeah, 12.
So you would have
the day,
full distance. He would have been there.
No doubt. But they knew how many laps they had to deal with.
Yeah.
Got a little nervous. And you said, man, you could see Josh just searching for that. He needed it. And the only question was at the end, those tires are not designed to run on dry. And when they let go, they let go. I mean, they come out for chunks.
Yeah, and then once they start chunking like that, actually the tire looks good.
Yeah, he did a good job managing it because when you lose a little bit, it's almost like sprocket.
He's smart. He's used his experience. When he had that big lead, he was just cruising around. He wasn't beating that tire up and putting it on the edge of the tire and saving it. He knew what he had to do.
We saw at one point Luke Power maybe closing in. He got to within, 3.5 seconds, but then he started losing ground again and probably wanted to make sure that tire lasted, but his Dunlops held true. Josh Herron, Luke Power, and Ty Scott, your top 3. Listen to the guys next door.
Where is Herron going? Celebrating with the fans. He's a fan favorite. He's launching his gloves. I love it. Jason Pridmore, this seems like one of those races where you go, hey, you remember back in 2022 when we were at Barber Motorsports Park in that wet-dry race?
He said he was going to do it. You know, he climbed it a few years back, I guess, and so he said he was going to do this.
And all those fans deserve it for hanging out in the rain. Let's take a look at those race results. So we can kind of break this up, I guess, to rain tires, but Herron, Luke Power, Ty Scott, Jared Nassanian in 4th, Sam Lockoff in the mix, Benjamin Smith. Mesa in 7th was the first of our full slick rider. He finishes 33 seconds back. Rocco Landers in 9th, just about a minute behind, but credited with the fastest lap of the race. And Josh Herron's already made his way back into victory lane, and he's with Herron right now for another race victory.
A great way to end a championship title winning season with a victory. Definitely a gamble out there. A lot of different people were on different tires, but you guys went with those reins. How were they feeling as the track started to dry out at the end there?
They were surprisingly well. I was just worried because of how fast Stefano and Rocco and those guys came by that I needed to save them because there was no wet spots on the track to swerve into. So I just had to try and stand the bike up as much as I can coming out of the corners. But luckily these Dunlop tires held on good the whole race. I just got to give a huge thanks to our whole team. Thank you very much to Ducati Richmond and Doreen for coming out all the way from Canada to support us. Thank you to Ducati New York. Thank you to Warhorse Racing. Thank you to HSBKRacing.com. Thank you to all my sponsors, Arai Helmets, OnlyFans, Alpine Stars, Fresh and Lean, Black Claw, everybody that's involved. It's been a really magical year, and I'm happy to be able to end it with a win. We started with a win, so I'm happy with this, and looking forward to coming back next year.
Starting the year on this newly homologated motorcycle for the class, we weren't sure quite what to expect. We talked about your expectations a little bit. Did things really go to plan?
Oh yeah, I mean it was a great year. I think I'm not sure what our lead ended up being there at the end once the season's over, but I think it's over 100 points. So yeah, I'm stoked. I got a 2-year deal with these guys. I don't know what class we're racing next year, but I'm happy to be on this V2, and if they ask me to come back on it again, I'd be more than happy. So huge thanks to Ducati. You got Jason Chinook here, who's the CEO of Ducati. You don't see many CEOs of a manufacturer coming out to multiple races. Got the guys from Medallia coming out here, which is the second race they've been at. And I'm just super happy to be up here, super happy to be involved with this team, happy to be racing MotoAmerica, and looking forward to the huge crowds next year.
Congrats, Josh. Let's get over to Jamie with our second place finisher. Very happy finisher at that.
And that second place finisher today is Luke Power. It's his second podium of the 2022 season, but it's been since Road America that we've seen you up here celebrating. What made the difference today?
Honestly, the team gave me a great bike along with K-Tech suspension, and I don't know, we went out in the warm-up when it was actually wet, and the bike just felt really, really good. I felt at home, and when the race started, it was still damp, and it started to get dry and dry and dry. And I just put my head down, tried to focus on hitting my marks, and yeah, I mean, I didn't expect to be here. We've had a really, really tough weekend, 2 crashes. Sorry, it's hard to hear when it's echoing. Yeah, 2 crashes, and it's just been really, really difficult. I just want to thank the team. They've done an absolutely great job. Shout out to K-Tech Suspension. Lenny's been a great help all year, and unfortunately couldn't be here this weekend. So shout out to Lenny. Hope you get better soon, mate. Massive thank you to all my sponsors: Motorcycling Australia, LS2, Forest Leathers, Foo Sport Boots, Pedal Mafia, Earmold Australia, the Greening Dingo, 64 Degree Racing, everyone that helps out. Shout out to Mum and Dad for letting me race motorcycles and live the dream. And shout out to all the fans out here. And I love Bama. Can't wait to come back. Yoo!
All right, congratulations, Luke Power. Hannah?
Third place today goes to Tyler Scott, wrapping up his rookie season in the class with a podium. Tyler, take us through that battle for third.
Yeah, first of all, I want to give a big thanks to the whole Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki team for giving me the opportunity this year, Chris and John Ulrich, and I took full advantage of everything that I had, and it's a great feeling to put it on the podium for the last race. But during the race, I didn't feel that great in the beginning, but the track started to dry out, and I started to get a little bit more pace, and I thought I could get second by the end, but I just didn't have enough time.
How would you say you've matured as a rider throughout the season?
I think I definitely learned a lot about the setup and working with the team, crew chief Robbie Peterson, my mechanic Dustin, Barry, the Oleans guy. Everyone's been a big help this season, and I'm very happy with my progress.
Congrats, Tyler Scott, rounding out your podium.
We're seeing a lot of bright young faces in Supersport, the future of road racing here in the United States. Our coverage of Supersport, the final race of the year, continues after this commercial break.
We got our little break, our little gap there as the guys make their way off the podium. Hugs for Luke and Josh. They're a strong run there at the end. A couple things to talk about, Roger. You heard Josh Herron say he doesn't know where he's going to be next year. I think, the opportunity is probably there with the team to do Supersport. Does he, Josh wants to probably be back in Medallia Superbike. Again, does he have that opportunity? That's the big question.
That is the big question, and I think for sure he's going to be back with that team. The only question is which class.
Yeah.
Do those guys want to? It would be awesome to see them go to 2 Superbikes next year, that Ducati team. I think it would help them a ton. Extra rider, more data, really bring that team along, and just it would just be great to see them with another bike. I think it would be huge. Just that extra rider, that extra data would bring that team a long way.
So that begs me to ask you the question. We used to see it back in the day, Roger. Could we see both the Supersport and Medallia Superbike ride for Josh next year? Not going to happen anymore. Why is it? When they physically used to do it back then, you could have the number one plate?
New times, Robbie.
That's just the way it is.
Yep.
They're not as tough as you were, Roger.
That's right.
They weren't.
We raced in the snow, too.
Back it was uphill both ways.
Yeah.
All right, let's go down to Greg Kramer. You want to talk about Rocco Landers? I mean, you got to be impressed with his second season in Supersport.
Well, there's no question about that, but I wanted to pose a question, particularly to Roger here. I think Rocco may have had a chance at a potential top 5, maybe even a podium, if they had made the decision to get that tire changed and he didn't give up his third starting spot. He was on the front row. You look at what Stefano Mesa was able to do, guys. He only dropped back, I think, at worst to 13th, and then started to come on. If Rocco had been up there and been able to stay in that window with the times he was putting in later in the race, what do you think?
Well, I'm not sure, because he gave up so much early in the race. I mean, early in the race, there was some laps he was 10 seconds slower than Mesa and those other guys, so I think he gave up a little bit too early, but starting up front there would have definitely made life easier for him. I think the biggest thing for Rocco is just getting more comfortable in the wet. That's his biggest problem. At New Jersey, he struggled when it was wet. So hopefully this off-season, they can go to, whenever they're going club racing, they go to a track that's wet.
I think the question is right there where we're looking at. You and I both saw it. That tire looks a lot better than we thought it would look. Rocco might have been able to push it for a while, but then again, you take your chance of really throwing your whole race away.
Yeah, and what I meant by that, if Rocco's at a club race, hopefully it will rain and he can go out there and get a lot of laps in.
Yeah, he's got to learn it. And again, this ain't his first rodeo, Josh Herron, and that's why he took that victory. Managed that tire, did what he needed to do to take the win, and that's why he is the national champion in Supersport. Let's go next door.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is sponsored by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series, and by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car or motorcycle insurance.
Welcome back to Barber Motorsports Park as the sun has come out and the track is starting to warm up. As a look at our championship point standings at season end, and Rocco Landers, who is able to finish in second spot in this championship over Ty Scott. Benjamin Smith ends up fourth. Josh Hayes, who was supposed to participate in this race, didn't because he broke his leg in a high side crash earlier in the weekend. Luke Power ends up in sixth. And Jay, they're now handing out the season hardware. So there's Rocco Landers, who gets to get on the podium for the season as he collects his number 2 in the championship. It's a nice trophy, Jay. I got to hang out and see those. And there is the legend, Geraldo Faraci.
Love it.
Who gets to stand on top of the box once again in his career. Jay, it's been something like 27 years, I think, since Geraldo won a national championship. Somebody was saying?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, legend. I mean, Geraldo Faraci, it's so neat to see him here. And even cooler, you know, for him to be up there with Josh Herron, getting to hold the helmet. So, yeah, this is our season top 3.
Yeah, when you come to a MotoAmerica race, it's not always just about the riders. There's plenty of people here you recognize if you've been around motorcycle road racing for years, including Geraldo Faraci. He's always mobbed by fans, Jay.
Yeah,
when
World
we're down near
Superbike
his trailer.
Championships in his past as well with Doug Poland, if you remember, the early 90s and things. So he's been around for a lot of years.
Jay, let's take a look at race highlights from race number 2 in what has to be deemed as one of the strangest races I think that we've seen so far. As it started off as a wet race, but some riders choosing wet tires and some choosing slicks.
Yeah, 2 Supersport races that were really decided by tire choices, and you can see here, Herron jumped out to that quick start, would pull away to eventually win by 17, 18 seconds. Big battles though behind. Ben Smith was part of that, as well as Jarrett Nassani, both the M4 boys, and Luke Power. Nassani getting a little bit loose early on. Luke Power went underneath Benjamin Smith on his quest to try to get himself up to second. You can see Nassani is sandwiched right there between Herron and Power early on. We had a couple incidents, but overall, Greg, to be honest, we really didn't have too many crashes or anything for conditions that I think were pretty hard. So late in the race, you can see here, as the race was going around, Rocco gives the thumbs up to Herron, so does Mesa. But those guys would end up catching back up as the track would dry. This was Josh Herron lapping them. The track dried out, they started catching back up. Ty Scott, Jarrett Nassini still battling with each other there. This was later on in the race, but this guy comes onto the front straightaway, Greg, and it's going to be another victory for Josh Herron, getting to collect his championship hard way also at the end of the day.
So Josh Herron unchallenged in his 9th win of the season. And a big stand-up wheelie for him. But let's talk to Rocco Landers, who's with Jamie, who finishes 2nd in the national championship this year.
And on the way to that 2nd place finish for Rocco Landers, there were 4 wins, 12 podium appearances, Rocco. And you look back on this season, the way you developed as a rider, what are you going to remember most?
A lot. I mean, I've got a lot of help this year from my whole team, my dad, my mom, everyone. It's nice to be here. I wish there was a big number 1 on this, but I mean, that'll be next year, hopefully. I mean, that's the plan at least. But I mean, about the race, it was good. For the second half, I mean, I had a big slip there out of 5 when I upshifted, and it kind of lost the group of those other guys on slicks. But once it started to dry, I was able to lay the hammer down and go a little faster at least. But I mean, yeah, did better than I thought I would, to be honest with you. But yeah.
It was a great season for you, Rocco. It was fun to watch. Well, lots of more good things to come from you, I'm sure, Greg.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And you got to keep an eye on everyone's social media over the course of the offseason. We find out what Rocco Landers is going to do. But, Jay, looking at the season, 2022 was certainly entertaining. We ushered in the era of next-generation motorcycles here in Supersport.
Yeah, new rules, but we had an inexperienced group of young guys that got to learn from Josh Herron this year on how to try to put the championship together, work with teams. And, of course, Josh Hayes being involved this year was amazing as well. And we hope to see him get healthy, get back to hopefully winning another couple races.
Can't wait to see what happens next season with MotoAmerica Supersport and what new manufacturers might pop into the series as well. So keep an eye on MotoAmerica.com for all the information and all the riders and social media. Well, that's the 2022 season for Supersport. We certainly hope you enjoyed all the race action. We enjoyed bringing it to you. For Hannah Lopa, Jamie Howe, and Jason Pridmore, I'm Greg White. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you in 2023.